we're hoping to come back here next Tuesday at your regular meeting next week and submit it to the board. So I would also like if there's some way that we can get that on the agenda for next week for that to happen, so that anybody that doesn't have public comment during the week this week, and we're also scheduling a public meeting on Saturday for people to come and have public input and make any changes that are necessary, and then we'll have a final draft plan available to all the board members next Tuesday at the meeting. I think that's important information for you guys to have when you go into your study session today, because we've done this without any public funds. We didn't use the amount of money that's been used by other people doing the same thing, and we did what the people wanted us to do, with great protection to property rights, land use opportunities, and land use rights, and we did it the way that the people that live within the boundaries of Valley Springs wanted it done. And I think it's important that when you go into that meeting today, you realize that we also didn't divide and upset the entire community to try to force something on them that they didn't want.
Gary, does it have to be on only a week's notice, or can it be 2 weeks, or is it just information?
It's the remaining goals, policies, and implementation measures that he's trying to give to us.
Is it an action item, or is it information?
No, it doesn't need to be. It can be an information item.
So it's just public comment.
Correct.
So
presented under public comment.
So it's just presented at public comment. For it to be an action item, we need at least 2 weeks to get it on the agenda, because next week's agenda is already done. And I'll leave that up to Gary to decide when it needs to be agendized.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has an item not on the agenda?
Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. With respect to Supervisor Tryon's rebuttal, it's unfortunate that he's characterizing comments by the public as political grandstanding, since I don't run for any offices, nor do I seek any political office of any kind. But the reason I made the comment was that Public Works did not state that they have shopped around. So the assumption I made was, and maybe erroneously, Supervisor Tryon, was that since they didn't state that they shopped around, that they did not, especially since it was suggested by a board member. My item this morning, however, in the public comment period is that I appeared before the board several months ago and encouraged the board to make use of County Council's time here at the board meetings, and ask that you occasionally, when you are making decisions, particularly those decisions that may have legal implications, that you ask for advice from County Council with respect to that. And there's hardly a resolution or an ordinance that you adopt that doesn't have legal implications, I would suspect. I think I've said that before. And the reason I say that is that I liken it to going to a pharmacist and receiving a prescription drug, and then during consultation asking about side effects. Same thing with decisions that are made up here. What are the side effects going to be of this decision legally? Do we have any? And I encourage you once again. However, in looking at the budget for the County Council's office, I see a vacant paralegal position was eliminated in the preliminary budget approval. And I would encourage that the board restore that position. You spent a little under $30,000 in legal services outside of the County Council's office last year. Probably, I would speculate that it bought you somewhere around 100 hours of time. For that same $30,000, you could probably get close to 1,000 hours of staff time out of the County Council's office. And if it keeps you out of a lawsuit or helps you defend yourself in a lawsuit, I think that's money well spent. And along those same lines, I would like to see a position created, and maybe this position here could do the job similar to what other counties and cities are doing in the state of California. I know the state of California has positions called ombudsman positions, where they help the public navigate through the complex processes of government. And this would be, something that would be a benefit to the board, because usually when a constituent has problems with a department going through the process, and particularly the development process, is very complicated. They'll go to their supervisor and take up the board's time to try and help that person get through the process of developing their property or whatever it might be, getting a permit of some kind. So it would save you this time with respect to the board's time in particular. And also, I'm thinking that this would provide something for the public, the actual constituency you have here that pays the fees and does the application work, have them have assistance that they can rely upon that knows its way through the county processes and can be helped. Now, I'm not suggesting that this paralegal give legal advice. That's not the purpose of county counsel's office, is to provide legal advice to the constituency, but just to help them get through the myriad of steps that it's necessary. And besides that, this would be an asset, and you could do it as a public relations move with respect to businesses, attracting businesses here. We have an office here in this county that will help you get through the process. So often the board's been accused of discouraging businesses from coming to Calaveras County. This would encourage businesses coming to Calaveras County. And I think, I'm almost certain that there are grants, federal grants, to pay for these positions. And I would be happy to work with someone on your staff if you wanted to, looking into the cost of paying for the cost of that position. My suggestion is that it be possibly the paralegal position that was eliminated in the county counsel's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Jim Turley. My first comment is based upon Public Works. Obviously, I believe it's Mr. Caldwell was not listening when we have a contractor that takes care of our equipment at the landfill called Holt out of Sacramento.
Could you speak up, please, Mr. Turley?
I'm sorry. We have a contractor out of Sacramento, Holt, that takes care of our equipment at the landfill. And Mr. Espingel did say that he had this contractor do a search for the equipment. Also, he made a point of indicating that modifications to the used equipment that we're going to look at may be more costly than the benefit of buying new. So in that respect, I'd like to defend the department. Now, I'm Jim Turley. I represent SEIU. And there seems to be a disconnect between the bargaining teams, to say the least. My understanding, and I would like to clarify, I sent an email asking for any action or modifications to the county's offer. I sent it to your negotiating team, Bill Avery and Francine Osborne, on Wednesday morning. Have yet to receive an answer from either. One of our representatives, Mike Pouch with SEIU, did receive a phone call from Mr. Avery indicating that there was some movement on the county's part, but there is no formal offer, no indication as to what it would be. My concern is that you're not seeing what our offer is. Bottom line, our offer would save the county $400,000 and reinstate 2.5 positions. You ask for our unit to take significant cuts and look at reinstating positions, which we did. We fulfilled everything that you've asked of us and more. And yet you sit there and give us nothing in return. That's the appearance, because we're not hearing anything. I would ask that each and every one of you become more involved directly with our bargaining unit. Let us know what you want so we can at least start to bargain. Bargaining is a compromise. You can't stand as individuals or as a group at arm's length and expect people that do not communicate with us to do your job. You want information, you want us to compromise, but yet you will not, as individuals, get involved. That's wrong. We need to know what you want. So each of you, give us a call. My extension is 6791. I'll take a call from you anytime. I'll give you my home phone number. You can call me at home 24 hours a day. Any of you. Don't stay at arm's length. You can't. And expect this to go well for you, for the county, for the citizens of the county. We have to have a contract in place. Part of the reason for unions is the fact that management does not treat individuals well. That's historic. So we get together as a group and have strength. And that's what we're going to end up having to do. So I beg you, please, as individuals and concerned citizens yourself, give us a call. Talk to us. Let us know what you want directly, because your negotiators aren't. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley.
Good morning. Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. My preference for a topic would be an agenda item that you all passed a couple weeks ago, but I'm looking for some additional information about a budget item, and I will meet with someone later this week. So instead, I thought I'd tell a little story. This is about me. This is about maybe how to explain why I'm a little bit demented at times. When I was growing up, my dad was a mechanic, and on the weekends he was a prospector. He'd go out all up and down the Mother Lode looking for gold. He'd come from Minnesota, and he was going to find gold. He had a couple of mining claims in Mojave and Death Valley, and he used to go out on the weekends, and he'd take me at first. I was little, and he showed me all the critters out there. He showed me scorpions and rattlesnakes and lizards and coyotes and tortoises and centipedes and tarantulas, and I was a little overwhelmed, but I would go with him because I could spend time with him on the weekend. One time he wiggled down his mine shaft and he left me out there, and something was going to get me. It was in the bushes, and I knew it was coming to get me. It was one of those things he had shown me. So I got in the truck, and I rolled up the windows, and I sat there for a couple hours blubbering because I was hot and scared. And he come out, and he saw me, and he says, "Oh, I don't think I should bring you out here anymore." So I didn't get to go with him after that. I didn't want to. I was scared. One day I was coming home from school. I'm sure it was on a Monday, and I went to open the screen door, and I looked up on the corner. Up in the corner, I swear to God, there was a Gila monster. He had shown me a Gila monster, and I had dreams about Gila monsters because it had the word monster in it. And there was a Gila monster in the corner of our porch. We're in Los Angeles. There's no Gila monsters around there. So I start screeching. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All the kids are getting home. Pretty soon there's about 100 kids in the yard and a bunch of screaming moms, "Get away from there! Don't touch it! Get away!" And it was chaos. Nowadays there probably would be helicopters with cameras. This was quite an event. Maybe there was only 20 kids. Anyway, there was a lot of kids there. And pretty soon, somehow, we started poking it with a stick, and after about an hour or two, it was dead. And the party was over, everybody went home, and me and Ernie next door went and buried it in the backyard, and everybody was talking about it. Of course, later that night when my dad got home, he heard about it. But I was already in bed, so the next morning he wakes me up and he goes out there and he says, "Where'd you bury it?" So I had to go out there and show him where we buried it, and he dug it up and he goes, "Yep, that's a Gila monster, all right. Why'd you have to kill it?" Well, I didn't, Daddy, I didn't. It was those kids. They had the stick. They poked it. And he goes, Bonnie, who was the first one that poked it with the stick? It was me, Daddy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. He says, didn't I tell you not to poke things with a stick because you're going to hurt it? Yeah. He says, so now Daddy has to think of what he's going to do with Bonnie. He goes, well, is that the only one you found? I said, well, yeah. He says, didn't you find any more? More? No. What do you mean, more? He says, well, I wasn't going to tell you this, but now I think I'm going to have to. I didn't want to scare you, but now I'm going to have to tell you this. What happened to me last week? I don't know how I'm doing on time, Marita, but...
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, that's chapter 1. Next week, you'll hear Daddy's story about the Gila monster, and it's worth coming back for. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
I can't do this. I can't do this.
Terry Baker. I'm from Railroad Flat to talk about the ongoing illegal cock ranch operation that Carolyn Redmond is continuing to evade the prosecution. Anyway, I think all of you got a copy of this up there. And this is the code for agricultural accessory structures, just so we can set the record straight on what's legal and what's not legal, because we've had Sue Coe and Bob Garamendi come out to the house, and they, we show them all this, and they don't even listen. They just want to make up their own rules and go by their own opinion. So I'm going to read the rules to you, and you guys can decide what's right or wrong. An agricultural structure means a structure for the use in agricultural operations such as sheltering animals, for agricultural equipment, hay, feed, etc. Examples of these structures include barns or storage buildings, non-commercial greenhouses, coops, corrals, pens. Also includes the storage of petroleum products and on-state agricultural use allowed by the applicable zone. Now, the next page tells you what permitted uses are for these agricultural accessory structures. And on over 20 acres, you don't need a permit. You can do whatever you want over 20 acres. That's why it seems to be such a misunderstanding, because a lot of people have 20 acres, like Steve Walensky, Bob Garamendi. They don't need a permit, so I guess they assume that everyone else doesn't need a permit. Well, let's go to the next page, and this one has this the 3 next to it, the superscript 3. Now, these are for agricultural structures under 20 acres. And it says, the following uses are permitted in the RA zone upon the approval and validation of an administrative use permit. Well, they don't have any administrative use permits, and you saw those coops out there. There's got to be a couple dozen of them. And there isn't a size for a coop. It doesn't have to be 10 by 12 or anything less. It has to be a coop. It has to shelter animals. There seems to be a confusion that it has to be a 10 by 12 building, under 10 by 12 building, for it to be non-permitted. And that is true. If you're building a building, that is associated with a pump house, a storage shed. You know, a building where you open the door and you walk in, that's a building. A coop, they have like a foot-by-foot door, and if I can see anybody crawl through that door and call that a building, that is not a building. It's a coop, and it's an agricultural accessory structure. And you go to the next page. This explains exactly the size of acreage that you need to put one of these coops on. The use is allowed on a parcel of 20 acres or continuous parcels totaling 20 acres or more. That means if you have 19 acres, you don't qualify. That also means 4 acres doesn't qualify either. And it's in a residential subdivision. And you saw the coops. There's dozens of them. That's why these laws were made, to prevent that from happening. But you let it happen anyway. Now you go down to 7, which is the one that needs less than 20 acres, under 20 acres, superscript 7, the use requires an administrative use permit or a conditional use permit only on parcels less than 20 acres. Otherwise, the use is a permitted use. Well, that just kind of blows the whole agricultural resolution committee's theory out the door, and their whole thing that they sent to you, their findings and their recommendations. They don't even take this into consideration, the size of the lots. They're only taken into the size of the buildings, which has nothing to do with agriculture. That's a building code, not an agricultural code. And it's very frustrating when this has been going on for 3 years. And nobody knows the difference between an agricultural accessory structure and a building, accessory building. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is Susie Coe comes out to our Bob Garamendi and Susie Coe. They call us and they solicit us to come out to our house to help us out. Well, they say that they're neutral people, and Susie Coe's our representative and Bob Garamendi's theirs. Well, you read this. It says Susie Coe, she favors agricultural lifestyle. She'll do anything to protect agricultural lifestyle. Well, why is she representing us? Don't you think that if we're going to have the people against agriculture, it shouldn't be everybody ag and no one representing the people?
Mr. Baker, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, we feel like someone's got to figure this out real soon. Because, they said, in Bob's findings and rulings, he said it was legal. Oh, we find this to be legal. Really? I guess if you don't look at the rules, anything could be legal. But once you start looking at the facts, which they were supposed to be looking at, the facts finding, I don't know, maybe they should look a little farther than the end of their nose.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Items not on the agenda. Okay, thank you. I'd like to move to item 8. It's an informational item. I'm sorry. I thought Steve was, because I took his place. You want to do it? We'll do it.
When is it?
It's Thursday.
Good morning. My name is Mikey Habestad. I'm from the Calaveras Works and Human Services Agency. Last time I was here was a couple of months ago to tell you that Calaveras County was selected to participate in a nationwide Positioning Public Child Welfare Guidance Institute. We have a team of 3. I'm here with my teammates, Terry Hall from Calaveras County Probation Department and Karen Carsick from First 5 Calaveras. And we wanted to update you on our progress so far. We've had a couple of visits back to Washington, D.C. The first visit, they really reinforced the notion that any new program or policy or procedure that your agency comes up with should be reflective of your written practice model. And after hearing that several times, they asked us where they thought we would start. And since we don't have a written practice model, that sounded like a good place to start as any. So before you is the practice model that we came up with in Children's Services. We think it beautifully illustrates the vision that we have for the future of child welfare in Calaveras County, that it's really a shared responsibility, which is why we have the team that we have. And so that was our first visit. Our second visit was a couple of weeks ago, and we presented our practice model that was well received. And in fact, the goal of this practice model is that will be used as a template for other counties in Calaveras who don't already have a practice model, as well as other states in the nation who don't have a practice model. So then the question is, well, what are you going to do with this now that you have this lovely piece of paper? So we came up with part of the guidance is to have a part of your change management efforts should be a continuous improvement team. So we've been working on our continuing improvement team charter, and the back page of the packet that we submitted, Karen, I think, did a lovely job illustrating our vision for this process. The continuous improvement team is sort of the bold box down here in the middle. They would guide any work groups that are developed to work on new policies and programs in child welfare. And they would report to the sponsor group, which is this larger box in the middle. And the sponsor group, we have some names on here. These are folks that we've already approached that have agreed to be part of our sponsor group. These are high-level decision makers for our partner agencies in child welfare. And the goal is for the sponsor group to just review any plans that come up from the continuous improvement team, offer suggestions, insight, inputs, and ultimate approval of any plans that we develop. My teammates so thoroughly embrace the spirit of this process that they have come up with their own practice models for their own agencies that the look and feel is very similar to the practice model that we've developed in child welfare. Our vision is that this sponsor group would also look at any continuous improvement team activities from their respective agencies as well. So again, our purpose today was just to update you on our progress, hopefully get your support for this process that we're going through. And you'll see in the sponsor group there's a placeholder for a volunteer from the board. If any of you would like to be part of this sponsor group, we really don't anticipate this being very much time for you. Most of the correspondence would be electronic, just to review any plan and provide input that you have. I'm not expecting a hand raised today, but if you think about it, please let me know. Questions?
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
this.
Thank you. We're very proud of the work we've done so far.
Quite a compliment to each of you. So she's put out a challenge, board member.
Yeah.
Is there a board member who would like to be on? Steve?
Oh, thank you so much.
And Gary will be the alternate.
Well, why don't, I'm wondering whether there's a possibility. Gary's back up to the Juvenile Justice Commission, and I'm on the First Five Commission. It would make sense to have both perspectives policy-wise. Do you mind having two of us?
No problem at all. Appreciate your support and your interest.
Fine.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'd like to move to review of correspondence reports, various matters. Tom?
I do not have anything to bring before the board today, Madam Chair.
Steve?
I've got a number of things, but I got to find them first.
Well, let me go to Gary.
5 o'clock, juvenile justice.
Yeah, I'll have to get hold of, I don't
That's on
have a
Thursday.
computer anymore. It'll be at probation. The agenda's out already. We're going to be coming up with a new location because we can't meet in CalWorks anymore.
They're going to meet at probation.
They'll meet at probation this time only,
Okay.
or because the space is too small. Could you ask Debbie? I meant to ask Terry. Debbie Orby, tell her that it's not Steve who's going, but Gary's going to substitute for me on Thursday.
I have on Wednesday, tomorrow at 1:30, a CMCAA, Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency meeting for bylaws, go over the bylaws for that organization. 5 o'clock at Juvenile Justice meeting at Probation Department.
On Thursday.
On Thursday, the 22nd. And that's all that I have, madam.
You're going to go to Parks and Rec on Wednesday.
I'm going to try to.
Okie doke.
I have some other things on my agenda.
Got it. Okie doke. Steve, are you ready?
I am ready. Today I have a meeting with the Forest Leadership Council of the El Dorado National Forest at 3. I have the Amber Calaveras Consensus meeting tomorrow at 9:30. At 1 o'clock, at noon, I have a meeting with the Sierra Nevada Conservancy staff, and I will be at the Parks and Rec meeting at 6 on Wednesday evening. I also have JPA, I believe, Gary, we've got the Upper McCollum River Water Authority meeting
On Friday.
at 1 o'clock.
Party
Yes.
Center.
Okay, that's all I have to